as you watch the markets today, how did the share react today to what was said, and how did investors react as well? Are they showing confidence in the testimony or not?
Well, the share price reacted positively. I mean, the share price ended up around 5.7% higher on the day at around R2.77. So, I mean, it's still a far cry from the 66.25 it was about a year ago. So, I wouldn't say that it's recovering that much, but it is necessary. You know, from the low base, it's a strong reaction, over 5% up on the day, with relatively higher than usual volume traded, considering where the share price is and how it's been trading over the last couple of weeks and or months, if you want to include that. But whether or not this boosts confidence in the company, I don't quite know. I think that basically Jooste had said a lot of things that we've already heard. No surprises. He doesn't take any accountability. He's not brought any new information to the table. He's managed to pin a lot of the blame on a deal or a partner that they brought into the business in 2007, and then did some transactions with the purchase of Conforama, as well as the purchase of some other furniture businesses in 2011, in which he couldn't, the new partner couldn't bring his half of the funding to the table. And then there was a fallout in 2014, and the whole thing their partnership came to an end, their joint venture came to an end, and he's essentially placing the blame at the feet of this series of events and not taking accountability for anything that happened, as I suppose one would expect. And of course, just shed some light on basically what had led to the delay of the results and so on, which I suppose clarifies the picture a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily make me feel any more comfortable. I think for now, the market is really just waiting and looking for the historic results that are, part of the forensic sort of auditing process that's happening, that we are expecting the historic results to be released to us at the end of December or late December. And I think that is really when we will find out whether or not this company really stands a chance of surviving, because we don't quite know how deep the hole is, and we don't know what happened. And so far we've heard 3 different testimonies from 3 different people within Steinhoff themselves. We've seen Jooste and we've seen Lachransi both make their statements in Parliament, or do their testimonies in Parliament, and all 3 have different stories. So we don't yet actually know what happened, and I think we only find that out later on in the year when the historic financials are re-audited and brought to light at the end of December.
Yeah, now Markus, Jooste, as you mentioned several things that might have snowballed and led to the share price dropping by 95%. So are those things really what could have led to the collapse of Steinhoff shares, or are they a small part of it? Because he wants us to believe that ultimately led to it and it was nothing irregular.
Well, okay, so whether or not there's irregularities in the sequence of events that led to the collapse, I suppose that is up to the investigators. I know the Hawks is looking at it as well, so it's up to them to decide whether or not everything was above board. But I can say that the market is a very fickle, I don't want to use the word mistress, but the market is a very fickle creature. It is driven by sentiment, so remembering the sort of trading days leading up to the collapse, if you want to put it that way, we saw Monday the share traded down 9%, Tuesday the share traded down 9%, and Wednesday the results are due. So there's a feeling that, well, the results can't be that bad that the share falls 18% in 2 days leading into it, or somebody knows something and is unloading a lot of stock before the results come out, the results are going to be bad. Then the day that the results are expected, you get a statement saying, oh, listen, no results, we can't get our auditors to sign them off, which is obviously bad news. Oh, and by the way, our CEO is stepping down immediately, as well as not just from our board, but every other board that he's on every listed company on the JSE. That is terrible news. So the reaction from the market from that point forward is a very emotional one. We've seen very recently, for example, with MTN, the way that the stock has traded, I mean, down today, it bounced today, yesterday down significantly, a few days ago down 22%, and this on the back of the Nigerian news. What's interesting, though, to note is that in the few days that MTN has fallen so hard, the short interest in that stock has risen, has skyrocketed. In other words, people placing trades to benefit from the price going lower have increased almost exponentially. So this is almost an indicator of the sentiment behind what drives price in the market. So essentially, a lot of the time, companies' market values aren't necessarily determined by what the company is worth, but what people believe about what the company is worth.
So very quickly, Petri, because I've run out of time, I need to ask you about this. Let's talk about Steinhoff without Jooste. The company was fined for not disclosing price-sensitive information to investors in time. It still doesn't seem like the company is moving in the right direction. So can investors trust anything coming out of Steinhoff even now after Markus Jooste?
So my view, and I mean I could be wrong, but my view is that I see a company that's scrambling to protect itself and not say anything wrong. I think that only once we have the historic, forensic audited financial statements that are, looking back 3 to 5 years, that we are getting at the end of December or expected to get at the end of December. From that point forward, I think we can believe those statements. Until then, I think that everything else is a PR job at this point.